particularly because I was a strong swimmer. And about that time, boot camp was just about over, and because I'd got a perfect score on the math test, I was encouraged to go to service school, 16-week program for quartermasters. And the quartermasters in the Navy are supposedly navigation personnel and signaling. So we had to do those things. We learned the flashing light, the blinker, the semaphore, the hand signals, and flag signals. And that was all right, except I never used those skills after I was transferred to a ship under new construction.
So tell me about your life aboard the ship.
I started out, as I said, as a quartermaster, very boring, and some people liked it because they didn't have to do any work. I didn't like it because it wasn't appealing to me, and I was still a person that wanted to accomplish things. And so I switched my rate to that of a seaman, bosun mate is what we were. And I enjoyed it from there on fairly well. My biggest and only real skill was I was a very good helmsman of the ship. And we'd put on 4 hours on, 8 hours off. And I got very good at handling a ship, a destroyer. In rough seas or anything, I took a knack. I had the knack to do it. Very good.
So tell me about the Battle of Leyte Gulf.
Up to the time of Leyte Gulf, we had action, but it wasn't very personal. I was standing a watch. Now, standing a watch is a condition watch in which everybody serves 4 hours on and then they have 8 hours off to do the seamanship duties you have or sleep. Playing poker was the number one fun type thing that we did. At about 7 o'clock in the morning on the 25th of October, 1944, we were sent in a very, very peaceful existence, guarding 6 aircraft carriers. They were used for shore bombardment, not for action against other ships. They're very slow, clumsy little ships. They served their purpose pretty well. But we were protecting them. There were several destroyers and destroyer escorts. At about, as I said, getting close, you could smell the bacon frying, and about close to 7, some airplanes went flying over real close, low to the water, and we didn't know at first what they were, and they were our scout planes that had been sent out for the morning search. We didn't know what was going on, and then we saw anti-aircraft bursts in the air, and then the word was passed, prepare to engage major portion of the Japanese fleet. And before that speech was done, we had turned and were attacking the whole Japanese fleet single-handedly. Our captain was a very, very courageous, very dedicated, very, very competent naval officer. He attacked the whole fleet all by himself, guns blazing, just like in the movies, John Wayne movies, attacking the Indians. He was attacking the whole Japanese fleet. At general quarters, your battle stations, I was the helmsman in the emergency steering room, which under some circumstances was never used. But as we finished our torpedo run, in which we disabled a Japanese cruiser, we were hit with, they said, 3 heavy guns and 3 lighter weapons, and our speed was knocked down to 19 knots. At that time, control of the rudder was in my hands because the connections to the bridge were severed. I got word from them, hard right, hard left for the rest of the time, but other than that, we had no duties, and the bridge was wiped out, and many of the people in the bridge were killed at that time. As soon as we made our torpedo attack, we were ordered, the small ships were ordered to attack the Japanese fleet. Well, our skipper could have just bailed out and headed south with the carriers, but he was a Cherokee Indian and had something to prove, and he did. We attacked along with the other ships, and his idea was we'd diversify the fire that was coming from the Japanese fleet so they wouldn't synchronize on single targets. At this time, we were just being hit regularly, many times by armor-piercing projectiles, which would pass completely through the ship without exploding. This lasted for quite a while, and then we got the word that the captain was going because the communications was cut off to the bridge, and the captain was going to control the ship from the fantail, the farthest stern part of the ship. He would stand over a hatch and yell down, or have his talker yell down, changes of course. And that's what we did for the next hour or so. And then more hits took place, and all our power was knocked off to the after steering room. At that time, they sent crews of usually 9 or 6 at a time, and they would turn the pumps, and I would swing the rudder around to where it would be hard right, and they would pump the hydraulic pumps to get the rudder to turn. And this was a miserable situation, but it was the best we could do. This lasted for another maybe hour, and then we got the word to abandon the ship. Well, it's something you learn to listen to. And when that occurred, they took off, and I was kind of in charge of the after steering room, so I had to wait till they left. And I wasn't terribly sure that we were going to sit. It was all kind of like you were dreaming it. You didn't really think you were going to sink, but you thought you better listen to it. When I got to the deck, through my escape hatch, I would see that a lot of them had already gone overside. There were a few people working on a life raft, trying to disengage it. And I thought, well, this is no good. You could see the ships that were shooting at us. They were very close now. And so I dove off the stern of the ship, and by myself I was swimming along, and it seemed like the shells would burst all around me, but none directly out at me. After about an hour of this, of swimming, I came across 2 older men whose opinion I trusted, and I said, well, shouldn't we look for a group to swim to, and so we're all together? And they said, no, we're too big a target, the Japanese will shoot at us. Well, that was fine by them. They had life jackets, I didn't. So I took off again right after a Japanese destroyer went right by us within 30 feet. And they could have, shot at us. They didn't do that at all. It was very surprising to us. Anyway, I started swimming by myself. I could hear and see every once in a while I'd bob up and away, but I'd see a life raft with a number of people on it. And I thought, well, there'll be a bigger target to see when our ships come to save us. So I swam on, and I've come across a young kid. Now, he was probably older than I, but he looked to be about 12. He was terribly burned, skin hanging down off his face. He was screaming about every second breath with a scream. So I started towing him, hopefully, to get him to the life raft. And when you are pulling a person in a life jacket, you don't make much room, you know, you don't move. You just paddle away and you don't get anywhere. So I told him, I said, I'll go ahead and see if I can get something for your pain. And because I can't do this. And so he understood me, and so I left him. I swam to a life raft that had some officers and about 30 people total. And I told the officer in the life raft, I said, I need some morphine. And they said, okay, fine. And they dug in and they came out with a syringe of morphine. And I said, well, I have to swim back. Well, everybody kind of looked the other way, and so I thought it was up to me to swim back. But a fellow I had met in service school, quartermaster school, said, you can't go back there, John, you don't have a life jacket. So he said, I'll do it. So he swam back. Good thing he did, because I would never have been heard of again if I had done it. And he administered the morphine to the guy, and the fellow later died and dealt death slips, and then he survived. A very, very interesting story his was. He was in the water longer than anybody else, and he actually was washed up on the Philippine shore. But anyway, long story to cut short. In the life raft, about 10 o'clock at night, one of the seamen died, and I got a life jacket, so now I was equipped. I thought of myself as being all set for anything. But let's see, it must have been about 12, 1, 2 o'clock. The first shark attacked and ripped the back out of a fellow that was known as the ship's barber. He was a machinist, but he was a ship's barber. They had about 3 or 4 of them that kind of did that extra duty, little extra pocket money. That scared the dickens out of all of us. Then another person was bitten. Then the third person was right next to me, within a foot or two. We were both hanging on to a 4x4 shoring timber, which is about 8 foot long. I had my left arm, I can still remember that, draped over the 4x4, and he had his right arm draped over.
Did you ever see a shark?
Never saw a shark. Now, there's others that'll say they saw him and all that, but I never saw a shark. I'd see a swirl of water and somebody scream, and that was it. But anyway, this fellow was saying, we've got to splash, make a lot of noise. Now, this is not true. This is not what you're supposed to do, but we thought it was because he was a chief gunner's mate and, you know, had more time in than we did. So we were splashing the water and kicking, and all of a sudden he really started screaming. And so I really tried to out-scream him. What I didn't realize at the moment was he had been bitten. And he actually stepped on the shoulders of people that were hanging on in the water and dove headfirst into the life raft. Now I was really scared because now I didn't have that fellow to talk to right across the 4x4. And it was really kind of scary there for a while, but nobody else was bitten that I remember, that I realized. At about 8 o'clock in the morning, another fellow who I just knew slightly aboard ship said, why don't we swim to the Philippines? We could see the mountains of Samar. They were probably 20 miles away, maybe a little less by then. And so we asked whoever was in charge, I can't even remember the officer's name, said, we'll go get some help. Well, he didn't seem to think that was out of the question, so we took off. We swam all day, and probably at 5 o'clock that night, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Just accidentally saw it. So I yelled at Jim Corral, the other seaman, said, I see something. So he swam back over to me, and we looked, and we couldn't determine what it was. It was very low in the water, but we decided, what the heck, it's something.